Howdy, y'all. Hope you've had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm stepping outside my in-laws' house. I just got through hanging up Christmas lights, so let's do this. This week we're returning to Salvian of Marseille, but we're taking a step back. Instead of looking at the man himself, we're looking at his historical context, and we're doing so through the eyes of three legendary historians, Peter Brown, Peter Heathers, and Brian Ward Perkins. If you haven't heard of them, that's okay. I know a lot of you guys aren't Romanists, but they're incredible, and they add depth, and they add a lot of historical information that really grows my understanding of Salvian and paints a picture of the world that Salvian lived in. And they all disagree with each other, which is absolutely fantastic. Our inspiration this week comes from Brian Ward Perkins, who says that the end of the Roman West witnessed horrors and dislocation of a kind I sincerely hope never to have lived through, throwing the inhabitants of the West back to a standard of living typical of prehistoric times. Romans before the fall were as certain as we are today that the world would continue forever substantially unchanged. They were wrong. We would be wise not to repeat their complacency. Now, Ward Perkins actually wrote this at the conclusion of a book that I surveyed for this dissertation. You know, it's amazing that after 1,600 years, we still don't know exactly what happened with the fall of Rome. We are still disagreeing. We're still having counter arguments. And Ward Perkins' perspective is demonstrated effectively by that quote. He viewed the fall of Rome as the end of civilization. That's a big claim. That's a huge claim, whereas other historians would disagree. Let's take a look at all three of these major leading figures of their respective schools and find some ways that they disagree, maybe even find some common ground, and that help flesh out Salvian's world. These three historians represent the major schools of thought that explain why Rome fell. First of all, you have Brian Ward Perkins, who was mentioned earlier. His view is very traditionalistic. It was kind of held by Gibbon. He is often called a neo-Gibbonian, but his view really is, blame the barbarians. Rome was destroyed. Civilization ended. He believes that Rome fell due to barbarian influence. The second historian is a bridge between two extremes. Peter Heathers is still a traditionalist. He blames the Huns, but he does more on migrational patterns than Ward Perkins. He looks more at where the tribes are going, at their motivation. He sees some things as invasion, some things he just sees as migration. So he's a bit of a middle ground, and he's a bit more nuanced in his perspective. Then last you have Peter Brown, who is a transformationalist. Brown is the father of the late antiquity studies. He created that school of thought. Anyways, he's from Princeton. He views the fall as a moment of transformation. He calls the fall of Rome a move away from centralized Roman power, more to where the provinces had a localized power under the authority of barbarian leaders. It's a unique perspective and one that developed first in the 70s and 80s and now is really the dominant school. Understanding the fall of Rome helps to understand Salvian of Marseille all the better. To help flesh out these three contemporary diverse perspectives, I pulled 3 book reviews this week that demonstrate the perspective of those writers as well. And it shows a really good interaction. It really fleshes out the debate between the three schools and how they understand this very significant event in Salvian's life and really in the life of Western Europe. Please view my abstract for more information on the conversation between these sources. But these 3 sources really do provide more depth within each of the 3 schools. The writers disagree with everyone except for Stephen Ross. Stephen Ross actually likes Heather's perspective and labels it as nuanced. But this week was a very good week in really understanding the background and the different scholarly perspectives on the fall of Rome. Thank you.